Why, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield, and today I want to talk a little bit about the phone game Rise to War, and I want to make very clear to everyone that this is completely me making this video, and I'm not being paid or told to make this video. Okay, guys, I'm not being sponsored to make this video. I want to talk about a little bit, why do I cover it? Why do I even make videos on it sometimes? Why do I think it's fun? That kind of thing, and some of the pros and cons. I'll explain some of the things maybe I don't like that they could improve on and change and stuff like that. But just for those who don't want to be here for the whole video, just off the bat, one thing I hear a lot with this game is, oh, it's one of those horrible phone games, blah, blah, blah. Now, let's just get out in the open. There is some pay to win in this game. Absolutely, okay? So I am very truthful here on this channel. That does happen, but I would like to preface it with the fact that this game has you can still play this game and have fun without paying any money. Compared to most phone games, and I've played a lot in the past, where I just stopped playing after a week because I'm like, I can't play this game because, you know, I have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars, right? So I definitely find in Rise to War, it's a lot more fun. Now, also, Rise to War, the Lord of the Rings game, is actually the official, it's under New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers, okay, who is the subsidiary companies. So, yes, it's controlled by another company that does it with everything, and they do a great job. But it is an official game. It's not just like a ripoff, right? Hence why they have the actual looking characters that you're seeing on screen, right? That look just like the actors from the Peter Jackson movies. That's one thing is really fun for me right there. But there's some special things about this game that I really like. And also one thing I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to go on their main page and I'm going to compare their pictures. So one thing that I'm sure you all are aware of with these kind of phone games is they always tend to show pictures that's not the actual game. All right. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through their pictures that they have on their main thing to download on the app. And I'm going to say what is actually in the game. Is, you know, does it actually represent some of the actual gameplay, or is it all just made up like most phone games are? So that's kind of what I'm going to work on today. That's kind of like my goal, what I want to do. So I want to kind of break that down. And it should be a lot of fun. So anyway, I'm going to break that down again. And I get it. This game is not going to be for everyone, guys. I totally understand that. And for my newer viewers who maybe haven't seen any of my Rise to War videos, I only make about 8 of them a month out of my like 60, 70 videos I put out or streams. And usually they're like 5 to 15 minutes long. And they usually like, sometimes I'll even use it as a canvas. I'll use it as like a lore thing because you can go to a spot and it'll look really cool. So like Orthanc, you go to Orthanc and see it. And there's like this cool little story thing. And I've been working on a little story series and explaining some more lore to you guys, right? Using this. I kind of do that with LOTRO too, right? But it's fun to have something to look at while we talk about lore. But anyway, it's really, really important is that the game is actually, you know, it's pretty darn fun and it actually is quite unique. There are other games that are similar, but a lot of the games that I've tried and played on phone games are kind of the copy-paste kind of thing that happen, right? They're just like kind of like just copy and paste everything over and over. And honestly, the copy and paste stuff gets really old really fast with all the phone games. It's like, oh, that game looks kind of cool with the commercial. You click on it, you open the game. It's nothing to do with that, okay? So that's what, again, I'm going to talk about this game today. I'm going to talk about why things are different. There's some similarities in certain ways, but really, overall, it is its own unique style of gameplay, which is really fun. And it's cool with the lore and the characters. And also the community is quite fun. I think they're pretty darn nice, all things considered. And again, it's not going to be for everybody, but some people only play phone games. So if you're someone who only plays phone games and you like Lord of the Rings, I highly recommend Rise to War. It's really fun. And even if you're someone that doesn't just play phone games, it's a fun game, okay? And again, I'm not being paid to say that. I'm just telling you that because I still think it's fun. But I'm going to walk you through it in this video, and hopefully it can kind of help you decide for yourself today in this video. So if you're someone kind of on the edge and you're like, I don't know if I want to try a phone game, I just, you know, see what I show you here, okay? Don't just take my word for it. Look what I show you as I walk you through it, and you can decide, and then you can go look at it for yourself too, right? Take it with a grain of salt. You don't need to agree with everything I say. You don't need to believe everything I say. I'm always truthful on my videos, you know, to much of my knowledge on something. I never want to lie about things, so I will always be truthful to you guys on things. But anyway, it's a fun game. The main premise of this game, real fast, just so you guys know, is basically it's a mask risk board. Okay, that's what I usually tell people. It's different than like Clash of Clans or like I played a game called Kings of Avalon for a while, which again, these games are some of these are extremely pay to win. Clash of Clans not so much from what my friends tell me, but there's always that element in phone games which gets a little bit old, and this game definitely has it a little bit, but you can grow your account, and if you join a good group, you can still have a lot of fun. And there's some stuff, so pretty much it comes down to tile taking, and there is a couple things that have happened over the last few years that this game's been out. For the time I'm making this video, it's been like 3 years old, I think. So about a year ago, they did a very large, massive update, which I will come back to in this video in a few minutes down in the video, that they really changed the structure, not entirely, but the big part of how the fighting worked and how the commanders worked. It used to be one of your leaders or commanders, right? Let's say for Gimli here, who's awesome, would lead an army by himself. Now you have to choose 4 commanders and they work together in an army. That was a huge change, and I'm not going to lie to you guys, it bothered me at first too. I was like, oh, I don't know if I really like that change, and then it wasn't really super refined for those week or two, and then they put a couple more updates out, and then it started feeling really good about a month or two after the update, and then they did a couple more updates, and I was like, oh, this is fun. This is really good. This is a nice update. In fact, now I kind of prefer the 2.0, as they call it, versus the 1.0 version of the game. And no, they did not just go into other phone game styles. I was worried they were going to do that, and they didn't. They kept to their same core, how it works with combat and stuff. So again, remember, this game is really designed really heavily around taking tiles and fighting enemies. And there's a lot of like technical mathematical stuff when it comes to combat, which isn't going to be for everybody, but like different fights, and you can go into here and you can go into like statistics and like how did my characters perform. You can even go into this thing and like see how certain abilities triggered and stuff like that. Has a very almost, I don't know, it's almost like getting technical, like you're playing maybe not a D&D session, but like a tabletop Warhammer session or something, where you're like, certain characters have abilities and powers, and you're measuring, you're being like really, it definitely has a little bit of that feel, like extra work, so there is, I would say, a pretty heavy learning curve to this game, which is why I make guide videos for this game. If you don't know my channel, you probably learned it because I made guide videos from LOTRO, or from one of the other things, which I will always be doing, don't worry. But I make a lot of guide videos for this game too. I'm trying to make more updated ones because they do update it all the time. So anyway, with all of that said, and a little talking about the game, let me just quickly go over to the thing, and we'll just talk about a couple things from the Play Store, okay? So in the Play Store, it's got 5 million downloads. It's got a 3.5 rating. Now, back to what I said a second ago, okay? Remember I made the comment about the update they did, okay? So the game's almost 3 years old, and they did an update about a year ago. And that changed the game quite drastically in some areas with combat, except it still feels different than the combat of, say, a lot of these other games you see in the advertisements suggestions here, right? So basically, when they changed that, what happens is, if you look, we actually have quite a few high ratings, 4 and 5s, but you got a bunch of 1s, and I'm telling you, about 80% of these 1 ratings are people being frustrated with the update. Understandably, which I'm going to go through a couple of these comments, and I will tell you whether they're true or with the knowledge I know now of some of these highly viewed reviews, okay? So I'm going to look at that. But again, in my personal opinion, the game is better now after the update, guys. So let's say now about the game, okay? So it says about the game, they have these pictures. Now, most games, we click on a game, they've got all these pictures. Let's see if we can find an example real quick. What is this? Nation of Darkness. I'm not trying to pick on this or anything, but as you can see, it's all just art with words, right? So if I go through here, it's all just art with like words, right? Now, maybe this is from the in-game, who knows, some vampire game. Doesn't really matter right now, okay? Maybe it's a good game. I don't know very much. But again, some of the games I've reviewed are just kind of copy and paste over and over. But for example, when we go here, let's look at their game. So again, they have great artwork. Fantastic. Looks really cool, right? So how much of that picture, deploy more commanders in the battles, that is talking about the update. It used to be you can only have 1 commander. Now you can have 4 commanders in a group. There's some pros and cons to it. I kind of enjoyed it back in the day when you had a single commander, and it was kind of like all about them. They had more skills in their tree. But you have more options now, because when you have 4 commanders, they have more abilities you can use and prioritize, and how it works with the combat, I think, is better in the 2.0, this new edition. There is some things where it's like, well, what about when it comes to the pay-to-win aspect? Do you have to get more commanders now to be viable? Well, I don't think there was a huge difference there, maybe slightly leaning, but not a huge difference because the way they updated it was very nice. Basically, most of the time back in the day, you really would only use like, I don't know, 6 to 8 commanders, maybe if you're using that many back in the day. Usually I'd use like 2 or 3, and I played a lot. But now it's a lot easier to level up commanders in certain ways and get them. So you can easily get, you know, basically you still control 3 armies, just 4 commanders each instead of 1 commander each. Okay, so that's about the difference. Now this image, how real is it to the game? Okay, so this is basically showing 4 commanders. You don't see this in the game. The 4 commanders are just there to look cool. Okay, that's just art. But this showing here is how your soldiers, different groups, this is all true to the game. Okay, these are like different groups of commanders. This little flag here on the left side is where you normally see your commanders when you're setting them up. It's a little more updated now than this picture, but that's accurate to the game. The top is how many people are in your barracks, right? This number, that is accurate to in-game. This symbol is accurate. The check mark is accurate. This whole thing is actually in the game, and I will show you real quick, okay? So let me just show you. So that is in the game. So if you go into your base, okay? Oh, cool. My base is getting a little level up right now. I just transformed my base to the last level. That looked cool. So anyway, if we go to our base, go enter base, and we go to the armory, I believe. So you can see now, you can kind of see your different armies here. They are indeed here. There's also one where you can go to the actual barracks, conscription barracks, and click on this button down here. And you can actually see all your soldiers and units right in the game, and which ones you own, which ones you have to use in combat and fight with. All right, so there is that indeed. Again, this has been updated to look actually a little bit better than the picture they have on their thing there. But it definitely comes down to, it's this conscripting area. So it's the army, it's called, your barracks. And this is how you can go through and like change your units. And this has actually technically been updated. So that previous picture is actually a little bit older, but it's still kind of the same thing. You can see your armies and work on setting up your units for battles and stuff like that. All right, so this picture, there's a lot of accuracy in this picture compared to just having art. Okay, let's look at the next one. All right, this is what I'm gonna do, and then we'll get to the review comments here. Okay, how realistic is this picture? All right, so again, march in diverse 3D territories. So they've updated the territory areas to look much nicer. I think the game looks really nice. Do you see it from this angle? No, this is art. So this side picture here with the image of the map, this is all right. Your units do march around hills and mountains like this. This is correct. This is how they march. So it is nice to see the fact that they're showing that you have a leader and their units and they're just marching in a line thing. That is how it works in the game. Same thing with the eagles, they can go over mountains. So, but the actual location, this is a piece of art itself, but let's just see, how close is that to the game? Is that telling the truth? So if we go into, and also let me just see, do I have let me check if I have the graphics all the way up, just so we can look really nice. Landscape orientation, high quality graph, yes, we're good. All right. So if we go, you can zoom down here. There's a couple ways you could do it. You can pinch on the screen, or if you're using an emulator like me, I think it's both mouse buttons down, you move it. It can be a little glitchy sometimes when you do that, but you can definitely, let's see if I can get it to do it on it's the emulator, it's not their game. It doesn't really like the emulator sometimes in that way. But let's see here. Let me just, let me go ahead and move to this location, and you can see if I move Gimli, there's the line, right? And here's your soldiers doing their little walk. Right? Which is kind of cool to see a bunch of armies moving around, especially if you're having a big combat with your fellowship and you see all these armies. And so it's very, again, like a risk board, like I've been saying. Okay, so that is true. That is what it looks like, right, when you go around. And you can find some really beautiful places. Like, I actually love the rivers around, I think it's Osgiliath here? Yeah. So it actually is really cool. You can see Osgiliath there, right? And you can see the rivers and all the animals. And then if I zoom in here, all right, on these guys, see if I can get it to let me. All right, so I actually did finally get it to let me do what I wanted it to do. So you can zoom out, and this is called the Tactician mode. It's a special game mode to kind of see where things are and be really high up, which is nice. It's helpful if you're doing combat and stuff. You can see where things are. Again, very risk board-like, right? But then I can zoom back in, too, and show you what it looks like closer again. So let's see if I can get it to the emulator to do what I want it to do. Or you could do it, emulator. Ah, there we go. I got it to do it. So you can see now we can zoom way in like that. And there actually is a visual mode too that you can kind of look at things and stuff and different stuff. It's pretty cool. So there's one you go in, you go this one, and I think you say perspective mode here. There we go. Oh, that's my scan. That's not right. Ignore that. This is something you could do. It's kind of cool. It can kind of let you see stuff. It's your ring power. Basically, you can like see like a Palantir. All right. Again, that's just made up for the game. That's not really lore. Though the Palantir does have that ability, but we're not going into lore stuff right now. So, but again, there's some cool stuff you could do. And again, I love these, like this mode where it like zooms down into your base. And there's also a visual mode. You can do that as well. So anyway, after that's been shown, let's pop back over here. So how realistic is this image? It's pretty realistic, actually, all things considered. It's basically just telling you one of the basic things that the game looks pretty good for a phone game. And I would say it does. I would argue it looks pretty nice for a phone game. And it just depends on where you're looking in the game. Sometimes it's better. Some people like the version before. So the map actually got a very big visual update. There's some things I liked about the old one better, but I think the new one overall has a better feeling of it being a full world, personally. But yeah, so that's that one. So let's go back out here, go to the next one here. So we have another image here. How realistic is this image? All right, Ascend Mighty. This is okay. This is an image like straight out of the game. All right, so we got a thing of Gandalf here. Ascend your heroes, which is a new mechanic that they added into the game. Some people might say part of it is pay to win, some of it's not. I personally like it because you can really focus heavily on one commander, no matter what their beginning rank is. But basically, if you want to ascend someone, you go to this thing, and you go to the Ascension. Let's see how right here, and there you go. You can kind of see this is where you put in your things, and then at a certain point, it'll show a page that says you can ascend your commander. And then you'll get that image that you just saw. I'm trying to think if I have one ready to ascend so I can show you what he looks like. Here we go. Right, so that's the very thing. By the way, I love that the characters are animated. I just think they look so cool. They look like the actors themselves. Just amazing. By the way, rest in peace, Bernard Hill. He was amazing. We did a ceremony for him here on my channel in Lord of the Rings Online. So. He was a very cool actor. He was missed. But it's neat to see him immortalized here on even a game, of all things. That's pretty cool. So anyway, that is a very real picture. So that's another real one. So I just want to show you guys which of these are real, which ones are not. Okay, so now we got another one here. This picture is definitely a real, totally real picture, but it's a little deceptive in one way. And I don't think it's bad deceptive. Some games just deceive you in a way that you're like, well, that's just scumbag, right? They're not doing that here. But I would point out that this kind of combat does indeed happen. It does happen, but it's not really a main form of the game. Okay, what I'm saying by that is most people just attack a tile, take it, and they never watch this combat that happens. You can watch this combat if you want, but it's not super, super advanced looking. In fact, I'd love it if they updated it more personally, but let me just go to show you. I'm going to occupy this tile, okay? There's some armies that always protect tiles, and I have guys on this if you need it. So they have a little combat here, right? So now we can go into our battle report, okay? And you see this is what happened. Well, there's a button right here behind my screen. You can't quite see it. I can click play, and you get this that happens, okay? So this is a real thing that shows up in the game. It just, if you don't know where to look, you'd never see it. And there's a little, you can zoom in and stuff, and basically there's a thing, a combat stuff that happens here. So they're fighting, they do the pre-state, and you see they do some battles. So you can see the different commandos that are fighting. We have, you know, Sauron and Gandalf together. Again, ignore it. There's a role-playing server where you can't have evil and good commanders on the same side, but since it's a Risk board game, you can. Okay, just side note. So you can see these ones down here, these bars. I'm drastically destroying them. They're already at half health, which I'm kind of covering it. There, you can see it. To the other side. And you can see the information happening over there. So used to pointing up. And you can speed it up too, of course. You can speed it up, see it a lot faster. But again, it's cool to see what your characters do, and this does help you know kind of like who front lines, because heroes take damage now where they didn't used to. So anyway, that's where you see that. So is this image a correct image? Yes, this is a real thing. It just isn't really that big a part of the game as this image shows, okay? So, and we'll go over here, and I may have to show an old game I played where I know what in-game combat is to show you the differences of pictures at the end of this right now, okay? So now we have this one, all right? This one shows a bunch of armies attacking the main goal of the game most of the time, which is claim the One Ring, which they put in Dol Guldur because it's right in the middle of the board. If you think about it, Middle Earth, it's right in the center of the board, right? Now, how much does Dol Guldur look like this? Now, this side picture is actually a little bit older of an image, but this is what it used to look like. These are all been updated nicer, these buttons on the left side. But this is what it used to look like. It does not, the combat around this location does not look like this, okay? So this is artistic flair, I would say is not correct. So I would strike on this image, is not correct. But let me show you what is correct on that image. So if we go back over to the map, anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying this. If this is helping you out and you like this, don't forget to do a like and subscribe, please. So let me go over to Dol Guldur real quick. I just really felt like I wanted to do this video about this. All right. And then if we find Dol Guldur, which is, oh, I must have misclicked where it was. All right. Click it everywhere but Dol Guldur, apparently. Hold on. Let me zoom out here. There we go. Got it. All right. So as you can see here, it does look like that in game. The base you conquer and take over. But normally you have all these forts around it, and when combat happens, you might see massive groups of armies moving at it, but they would be moving like this. All right, so like for example, if I brought these guys home, they'd be marching like this. So indeed, you would see the combat of the armies moving all over when there's a big battle there, and I have a stream about that. So that does indeed happen, but it looks like this, and then all the combats are happening all over the place with the thing I showed you just now with like battle reports and stuff, okay? Because it's like a Risk board game. So this image isn't completely untrue with the armies around it. It just doesn't visually look quite like that, with like, you know, Nazgul flying around and like stuff. Now granted, there are armies that sometimes will have Nazgul in them, so you will see Nazgul flying towards the thing. So it's not entirely, you know, like, just visually I think that looks better than it does in game, slightly, is what I'm trying to say, around the edge with the characters. Everything else in that image is pretty spot on, actually. So now, if we go to this one here, we have another combat one. This right here, this is just pretty art. Okay, so again, just like I explained, your armies will move, but you don't see trebuchet or sorry, siege towers and all this stuff. This is visually just pretty art. Okay, immerse yourself in Middle Earth. Now again, I think the map is quite cool. I think it's really fun to explore, so that's true with this statement, but this is just a pretty piece of art. Now these things up at the top, a little funny that they're stuck on there like this is what it looks like in game. That's where I don't really like. So if I were them, I would update this image to not even have those things in the top left corner and just leave it as a piece of art, right? And say immerse yourself in Middle Earth, okay? That's fine. I wouldn't put these like games, like the radar map up here in the picture and stuff, because this is never what it looks like in game with those there at the same time. Does that make sense? So this one's, yeah. I'm not sure about this image as much, but the other ones were really good. So my point of showing you this, guys, is I want to show you that this game is a lot better with this kind of stuff than other games, because I'm going to show you a difference here in a minute. So now you got one here. This is fine. This is good. Basically, this is a little zoomed in more than I'd say you can zoom in pretty far if you're using your phone. I'm using the emulator, so I was struggling to get a zoom. But this is indeed how the chat box looks when you're typing, even though it's kind of stuck in a weird spot for this image. Forge allies and win together. It is a very heavily team-focused game. Sure, you could be someone who spends a ton of money and be a super strong whale, but you're not going to be able to win the game without having a fellowship, or in this case, like a guild, right? They call it a fellowship, which is a little confusing because it's different than like Lord of the Rings Online that decided fellowship was small groups and kinship was, you get the point, and guilds. So anyway, this image, it has some truth in it when it comes to what the bases look like. And like an enemy tile would be red, and this is what the tile looks like in game, right? The mountain's a little bit fancier than in game, but it's pretty close. And the groups of soldiers would not move out like this. The only thing I think is a little ungenuine about this picture is the way the soldiers are kind of charging at this tile. They don't do that. I showed you what they look like, right? That's one commander with a group. So that's a little bit of embellishing there with the art, but otherwise fine, right? With that picture. And then this one is for fortify structures to plan your victory. Rebuilding structures, this is something that you do in game, that you do actually help repair things. If you're playing Rebuilding Glory campaign, you rebuild fortresses, and this particular fortress I believe are showing is either Gundabad or it's the Varang's fortress in northern Mordor. I believe. Let's just see real quick. So again, that tile that you saw, the stone tile that they showed is actually this one right here, I believe, is what they were trying to show, or it was a 150 stone tile. So that was a stone tile they were showing, and then if we go over to this fortress here, you know what? It might not be in this campaign. Yeah, it might not actually be in this campaign. Let's see. Is that it? No, yeah, so it's not that one. It must have been Gundabad they were showing. Let's find the Gundabad fortress. Is this the one they were showing? Yeah, so this is the one they were showing they were rebuilding, right? Now, you don't actually physically see it being rebuilt, okay? But that is in the game, right? But you don't actually physically see these, like, building structures on it. You do have a thing on it that says you're upgrading this, you're upgrading that as a team. But it's more of just a game mechanic than showing you physically happening. And again, this repair build thing, this is more something you use when you're, like, building your own tiles. So they kind of think it just stuck it there. But otherwise, that is true. That you do that in-game. Keep saying that, keep giggling. So overall, these pictures are all pretty darn truthful for a phone game, okay? I give them a big, like, you know, they get an A. Maybe not an A+, just because of that one image I explained. You know, this is just a visual one, which is pretty, but it's not actually gameplay. So it's weird that they have these here. But besides that, like, the rest of these are very truthful. This is what the game is, and you can see a lot of my... I can even explain and go through it in a different video if you want more detailed on certain things. But with that out of the way, I want to quickly jump over to a different game. Let's see if I can find it. This is not a attack. I have some friends that play this game, so they're really nice. Let's see. Can I even find it here? Is this the game? Yeah, now they call it Frost and Flame. They've renamed this game over and over. Okay? So this is a game that I play, Kings of Avalon, and I just want to use it as an example of what, you know, those games that they just don't show you the right thing. Now, this one has, I forget, what's this one's? This one's rating is actually very high. And I would actually argue that this game is far, far, far. I mean, if we had a scale of pay to win, Rise to War versus this game, and let's say a scale from 1 to 10, this one would be an 8 or a 9, and Rise to War would be like a 4 or 5 out of a scale of 1 to 10 with pay to win. Okay, so this game is really fun. I played it with my friends, but playing it free to play, you just get stuck at a certain point, right? That's going to happen a little bit in every game, but it doesn't happen nearly as much in Rise to War. So I'm complimenting Rise to War in this video, showing you the comparison here. So let's just look real quick at these images they show, okay? So they show these images of Rise to War. Let's just look at them real fast. So this image right here, this is completely not the game. This never happens in the game, okay? This thing up here, the top left, that is what the portrait thing looks like and stuff. It does not have... And this is correct, like that's a money thing that's in the game for your resources. But this combat thing image here with these fighting soldiers doesn't happen. In fact, the combat in this game is even less visually pleasing than Rise to War. Like, Rise to War has that little mini game, little mini fight thing where they show a fight scene and your soldiers actually marching a lot. This one has your little soldiers march too, but it's not very much animation. They kind of just go whoop to the spot and attack, right? So, and again, I'm not going to bring up the game because it'll make this video too long. So you're going to have to take my word for it to try this game out to see if I'm telling you the truth about this Kings of Avalon. This has nothing to do with the game. This is completely made up. Okay, this image is completely made up. This looks like Bannerlord or Total War, right? And it looks awesome. Like, oh man, I'd play this game. But I'll tell you right now, this is not Kings of Avalon. This is not what it looks like in game. Is there some mini game like this in it? I don't think so. Sometimes they'll give you those few little second mini games or whatever. Rise to War's never done that, really. Where it's in game. Look, another image of this. Like, they're even showing an image of you being able to reorganize your like formations, like Medieval 2 Total War. That's not a thing in this game, guys. That doesn't happen in this game. That would be so cool if that was a game, but this does not happen in Kings of Avalon. Completely untrue about what the in-game is, okay? I'm sorry I'm ragging on them so much, but, like, I know what this Kings of Avalon game is, and this is making it look like it's a Total War game or a Bannerlord game or any of those games, but computer games. That is not what this game is. None of this, I mean, where are they even getting these images? These are just completely made up for the advertisement page. I've never seen any of this in the Rise to War game, and I played it for several years. And in fact, I got on it the other day to say hi to people. So anyway, there's my point. And again, the rating on this game is super good, and people are like, this is really good, a great game. you know, this rating is more along the rating of what I think the Rise to War rating should be if it wasn't for that update that happened. So let's go back over to the Rise to War one and talk about a few of the update things, right, that they talked about. So let's bring this up here. Whoop. All right, so we go down to their thing here. Again, their rating is 3.5 and far less reviews, right, than the other one had. But, you know, slightly smaller game population, and it's a lot younger. The Kings of Avalon game's been around for like 10 years, I think. So the first thing I want to point out again is I think a lot of these one votes are when the change happened a year ago from 1.0 to 2.0. All right, so I wouldn't get scared away too much by the 3.5 rating. Just throwing that out there for everybody. I think it should have a better rating. I would rate this game a 4 for a phone game, maybe a 4.5, because of it actually is fun in lots of respects and actually has some things you do in combat and the risk board game feel, and it's Lord of the Rings, I know, but even if I took Lord of the Rings out of the view of this review, it still would be good. Okay, so let's just talk about a few of these real fast and we'll finish up the video here. All right, this guy Puds, this is a highly rated one. I played this game when it first came out and quickly became absolutely a favorite mobile game ever. And then it started getting worse with the new updates, so I stopped playing. So see, he didn't even get to try it, which this happened to a lot of people, right? Again, when the game first came out, it was super fun, and it still is super fun, all right? Personally, it's still super fun. I got to point this out. This is someone who probably got frustrated when the update first happened. He didn't want to have to relearn the game because they did a bunch of stuff with combat. And then probably, you know, and it was a little rough that first month with the update. And then they put out like 3 more updates the next month. And it, like, the game felt really great again. So that's probably what happened with this guy, okay? He said, but I'm just being fair to this person's review, okay? I decided to try it out again and download it while I write this. Please put back to the way it was. Edit. I will forever have nightmares for anyone's face. There was a weird update for a while that made it really scary, is what he's joking about. Yes, there are some things they actually have re-put back, I've noticed with some of the updates, but I think that the group commanders is better than the single commanders, even though at first I really didn't like it personally. And then once they did more updates, I was like, well, this is kind of fun. It gives a little bit more complexity to the battles, the combat battles. All right, so again, I think a very fair review, and he gave it 5 stars, meaning he did like the game. So that, I think that's a fair review. Let's see. This is a 4-1. It's fun, and growth isn't immediately stunted like in other games. This is a true statement. You can actually play the game for a long time. The gems are prevalent, meaning gems are the in-game currency. They give you free gems all the time that you can use, which I do agree with. It's very fun in that way. It helps free-to-play players actually feel like they're earning things for their effort, which is true. Though largely useless, I don't really know about largely useless, the next comment. I make a lot just from getting on daily and getting my daily gems with doing things or daily coin or whatever and rolling my daily free rolls. You get quite a bit still. Because when he wrote this, let's see when he wrote this. Oh, this is 2021. Oh yeah, no, it's way better now. They've added way more things for gems. That's probably why I'm wondering why he said that. This is an older comment. The biggest issue he has is with combat. The 10-round limit ruins the dwarves. With high defense and low attack, I always draw. My armies crush the other one, but can't get fast enough to cause a draw. This is a really big oversight in the game. This, since he wrote this, there was an issue with that back in when they did the update. But that has been fixed to an extent. And I know this because if you know my channel, I played the dwarves in this Rise to War game. Obviously, I love dwarves. And Gimli is a monster. Gimli is really, really good. So Dane's still really good too. It does put a lot more effort onto the commanders with the 2.0, which I think some people didn't like too. They liked more of the units mattering more. I think they balance that more now, but when he did this comment, I can kind of understand that. So I think it's a fair comment. So now this guy, 1 star. Let's see what he has to say. This game's difficulty level is very high. I think this is true. That's why I make guides on it. But I still think anyone can learn it if they put in an hour or two of thinking while they are playing it. They do walk you through it with stuff and learning things. You can now not move your settlement to a certain level is met. I don't know if this is true. This is an older comment too. I don't think this is true anymore. No, I don't think it is. That was an issue for a little bitty while. But it really wasn't that big of an issue. You could level up very quickly. Like we're talking like in time of this game, since you played over several months a season, You could do that in like less than a week, a few days, if you're just doing it every day. Is met and you're surrounded by big players. It'll almost impossible to grow at all. This is something that is this is frustrating. I agree with him on this, but this is kind of like every game that's like this has this, where you're taking tiles for resources. It can feel like impossible to meet the requirements for, like, he's talking about getting like resources, I guess, is what he means by meeting requirements. Not 100% sure what he means by that, because that's not really in the game to like hit a requirement. You have to get enough resources to level things up. But I will say in this game, one thing that's nice about this game is that you can get resources even from lower tiles, where in like Kings of Avalon, man, I'd be gone for a day and someone would attack me. I didn't have this peace shield on, and I lose my resources over and over. Now, if you get moved in this game, it's much harder to move your base. Like, people attacking you, and it'll automatically move your base if you've been attacked too much and lost your base's defenses or whatever. You will lose some of your resources, but it's not like all your resources. It's like a small chunk, and you can easily get them back with only a few hours. So it's very nicely designed, personally, I think, with Rise to War, how they did that. He says, as a 10-year player of Dragons of Atlantis, Clash of Empires. Okay, so he plays a lot of the other types of phone games that I actually think I like, over like why I like Rise to War, because they do it differently than these other phone games. So let's see what he says. The Hobbit and a few other games, Lord of the Rings is by far the most difficult to understand and play. But that's the point. It's different. It's not a copycat of all the other games, because all those phone games are just smacking different skins on the same game, and it gets boring, right? I think it gets boring. The graphics are great and the best part of the game. Good luck. So I don't know about a 1-star for this comment, personally. I feel like his comment overall is very polite and some truth in it and some misunderstandings on his part. But overall, he sounds like he likes the copy and paste simplicity of this game, just having a different skin every single time. I personally, one reason I like this game so much is that it is a very different feeling game. It's very unique as a phone game. There's some similarities. Like, one of the biggest similarities I could think of is if you go into the warband and you go to your boost, this kind of looks like a lot of other tracks when you're like powering up your guild bonuses. But besides that, there's like, it's not really a lot of similarities to other games, okay? It has a very unique risk style compared to most games. So I think it's quite fun in that way. I really, really like this game a lot. Let's go find the Shire. Shire should be right. Nope, it should be right around here. There it is. There's a Shire. So, and you can kind of see there's different places that have been, you know, like there's the Shire, which is kind of cool. And again, they have the rights to the movies. So like Rivendell looks like the movie version we see, right? The aesthetic and the house and all that kind of stuff. So again, overall, I really, really like the Rise to War game. That's why I still make videos of it. I understand it's not for everyone. Hopefully this will help some of you decide like whether you would like to try the game or not. Again, I was not sponsored or said, you know, make this video. I just made this because I felt like talking about it, so people know, why do I even, Zollin, Voice of the Rings, why do you make videos of Rise to War? Well, for one, there's a big chunk of my community here that are subscribers who like Rise to War videos, right? That's a big chunk, so I'm sure some of you will get to the end of this video and hear this, my Rise to War viewers, thank you. This is obviously based off the movie, The Grey Havens, but I think it's still a lot of fun to it. Now, granted, I think there's times where I'll get a little burnt out because it's a phone game, but I just play kind of casually with my one fellowship group, make videos for you guys, and then I'll get into it again and I'll play a bunch for like, you know, a couple, like for one season, and then maybe the next season I'll play a little more casually, and then I'll get into it a lot. I will warn you, if you get into it, don't stress. Just enjoy the game. Find a good fellowship that is fun to play with. If you get attacked and lose something and you don't get the reward at the end of the season for the certain achievement, I would just, don't worry about it. Just have fun. I think half the fun for me is setting up my commander combos and taking tiles and doing things like that, and then finding certain battles to fight other people and stuff like that. I really think that's fun. There's a ring. Oh, you got your lesser. They call them lesser rings, by the way. They're lesser rings of power, so we're not having the whole lore breaking issue there. In fact, I'll make some videos. They have a new ring creating thing I'll make a video about. But anyway, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. This is a little bit longer than I was expecting to make this video. But I felt like it would be, I just felt like it'd be a good video for anyone who's curious about Rise to War stuff. And why I make the videos and the pros and cons. that I just mentioned some of them. And, you know, you can easily get burnt out kind of thing. And also don't obsess, you know, over it. I would recommend don't obsess over it. Get on a daily basis, do your daily rolls, have fun, play as much as you want to play. Don't feel like, you know, it's fun to have events with your fellowship. You know, you can schedule events like you can see we'll have scheduled things and be like, hey guys, you know, this one someone scheduled, you know, slightly bigger keep, we'll protect it, you know, certain dates when it happens, when he published it, when we should be somewhere. You can do that and stuff, but if you find a fellowship that is still chill, the group I'm in they're very hardcore players. Like, they're very strong. We have some very large whales in our group. We have people, but they're all having fun and happy. And if someone has to disappear for 2 weeks, it's not the end of the world, right? And again, I get on a daily basis and still help take tiles and push things. And I'm just leveling up because I want to be able to do combat with them soon. Because right now we're doing big combat. We're trying to take dual door, and you can see we're pushing in on them here, and you can see how many people have battled. So these are actually units being killed. So this battle's been going for 11 actual days, 5 million participations, 1.7 million unit deaths, right? So it's a lot of fun. I love the map still too. And again, there are things I liked about the previous map and the previous look of the terrain, but I definitely think this newer realistic look is quite fun as well with the animals and all the stuff. So, all right. Well, anyway, with that, my friends, have a great and wonderful day in Middle Earth, and I will see you all in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings. Thank you to my wonderful Patreons right here, and also quick little edit update here vocally. Thank you to Reb, who is now a Royal Guard, which I'll update that for my next video. Thank you so much, Reb, for being a Royal Guard. I appreciate the support. Shout out to him. Shout out any of my Royal Guards. That's part of the bonus. And you guys have a great and wonderful day in Middle Earth. Stay happy, my friends, and I'll see you all in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings and any streams.